Hello folks, this is Sullla once again. Welcome to another video for League of Legends. This time we're going to be looking at a traditional support in the form of Soraka here. This is another one of these high elo solo queue games. And we'll be looking at the upgrade path for the support item that goes it's like the ancient coin that upgrades into the replacement for the Shirelia's Reverie item. I'm afraid I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to put out a video looking at each of the three new support paths. There is the sort of traditional support path that builds out of the Philosopher's Stone replacement. Then there's the ability power support that builds out of the Cage's Lucky Pick replacement. And then finally we have the, and for some reason this video has started at the 5-minute mark for some reason, so we'll just set it back to the beginning. These do that for some reason. Anyway, so we're going to look at the traditional support and look at the ancient coin build. Then I'll do another video looking at the ability power support that builds out of the Lucky Pick replacement. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. And then finally I'll do another video looking at the third upgrade path, the one that builds out of the Relic shield and turns into Targon's Embrace. And I know I kind of already did a video on that, but probably I want to get a video looking specifically at Taric, so I'll see if I can find one, because Taric has kind of come back and he got reworked and it's been a popular pick as well. So this is going to be a look, as I said, at a traditional support in the form of Soraka here and the Ancient Coin Relic, Ancient Coin support item. So that's what we'll be trying to look at in this video and talk about what sort of the strengths and weaknesses of that are, and go from there. Let's get the matchup set up over here on this side of the screen. This replay, it comes from Nidus Hermain, or Nidus Herman here, but it's actually Nidus Hermain. This is a person who's sort of on the cusp of the professional scene. Both Nidus Hermain and Bobby Hankill are players on the Walking Zed, which is a sort of, like I said, quasi-professional team. They're one of the teams trying to break into the LCS, trying to make it through qualifying and make it into the League Championship Series. They probably won't make it because they're not one of the best teams, but obviously they're still very good players. Everybody in this game is Diamond 1, I believe. And anyway, this was actually one of the few replays. I had to search far and wide to find someone who actually built the Ancient Coin, because it's widely seen as not being very good in the current makeup of the game. Yeah, it's widely seen as not being a very good item. So I actually had to go through quite a few games to find one where someone was actually building this particular item. So anyway, Soraka did get reworked in the Season 4 patch, in the 3.14 patch that started Season 4 or Season 4 preseason, whatever you want to call it. Then let me go ahead and I'll highlight the gold income item. There are, in case you didn't know, there are 3 gold income items that are intended for supports. They are the Ancient Coin, the Relic Shield, and there's an AP one whose name is escaping me, but it's basically the replacement for Cage's Lucky Pick. And they all have their own unique upgrade paths. And Nidus Hermain has gone ahead and picked up the Ancient Coin here. So what it does is it gives you health and mana regen. Basically, it's very similar to the old Philosopher's Stone. It basically is the Philosopher's Stone, but it was renamed for whatever reason. It's now the Ancient Coin. Health and mana regen. And then the unique passive, being near a minion who dies without dealing the killing blow, grants 2 gold. So if you notice, every time that Bobby Hankill last hits a minion on Caitlyn, Nidus Hermain is getting a little bit of passive gold on Soraka. He's actually getting 3 gold because there's a mastery in the utility tree that gives you 1 gold if you are near a minion that's being hit, last hit, and you're not the one doing the last hitting. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of that particular item. Let's also then talk briefly about what they did to Soraka in reworking her in this patch. So first of all, Soraka did get a new passive. Her old passive granted passive magic resist to everybody who was nearby. It was actually a pretty good passive, although people didn't see it that often. Now the new passive is Salvation. Soraka's health and mana restoring abilities are 1% more powerful for each 2% health or mana the target is missing. Basically what this means is if Soraka is healing someone who's very low on health, her heals are more effective. And I believe the break-even point is right around 50%. Like if they're, roughly speaking, if they're over 50% health, then your heals deal less than they used to. And if they're under 50% health, they deal more than they used to compared to the old setup. That's sort of a rough estimate there. But basically, when you heal people when they're very low, when people are very low, your heals deal more. And it's the same thing for her Infuse. If they're low on mana, they get more mana back from her Infuse. So that's the way that looks like. Alright, let's go ahead and highlight Soraka's skills here. I'll start with her W because this is sort of her main skill. Astral Blessing, this is her heal. Restores health, temporarily grants bonus armor to an ally for 2 seconds. Note that these both scale off of ability power. So, of course, building more AP will give you more heal back. You know, when you heal people, you'll heal them for more. But you also have an AP scaling ratio on the armor ratio as well. So you actually give people more armor as you build more ability power as well. This is the new utility scaling for APs. How good is this skill? Well, it's pretty good. It's pretty clearly her best skill overall. And you actually, if you build a lot of AP, you can actually give people a fairly ridiculous amount of armor. Now, one thing to keep up to point out, the armor buff only lasts for 2 seconds. It is very short. It used to last for 3 seconds. Now it only lasts for 2. So you can get sort of this, what Riot wants to do is create a sort of a very clutch heal, sort of someone's about to die and you toss on a heal and you give them a huge burst of health and armor that only lasts for like a really short period of time. So it's geared towards more of clutch saves than sort of persistent heal over time, if that makes sense. And the skill also has a very long cooldown. Note that it has a 19-second cooldown, although you can lower the cooldown. But cooldown reduction is a very important skill for Soraka to itemize. Very important skill. Okay. Let's then, actually, I'll go ahead and highlight her Q. This is her one offensive skill, Star Call. Strikes all nearby enemies, deals magic damage, and reduces their magic resist for 5 seconds. Stacks up to 10 times. This also has a scaling ratio. You can actually lower their MR by more if you get more AP, but it's a really, really low ratio. It is actually 0.01, not 0.1, 0.01. So you need 100 AP to drop their MR by an extra point. So anyway, this is actually not that good for the MR shred, or at least not as good as it used to be. But what it does do is it has extra functionality, actually, that's getting cut off from the tooltip. There it is. If Soraka hits at least one enemy champ, Astral Blessing's cooldown is reduced by 5%. So if you're spamming this in team fights and hitting enemy champs, the cooldown on Astral Blessing will go down, and that's actually pretty significant. So that's really its best usage right now. Yes, you still have the MR shred, but it's not as good as it used to be. It's more about lowering the cooldown so you can get off more heals. And if you're really spamming Q a lot, you can probably get off 2 or even 3 heals in an extended team fight. Next up is her E, her Infuse skill. So this is a no cost. What it does is if you cast it on an ally, it restores mana to them. Restores mana equals to 20 plus 5% of Soraka's maximum mana and cannot be cast on self. Or on enemy cast, deals magic damage equal to 40 plus 5% of Soraka's maximum mana and temporarily silences them for 1.5 seconds. Anyway, right here, we have Bobby Hank Hill getting hooked in by a nice Thresh grab. That trap is going to temporarily stun the advance. Nautilus is coming in, but ultimately they're going to be able to escape at the cost of 2 flashes down here in bottom lane. Both Caitlyn and Soraka had to flash out of that. So overall, that was a pretty successful gank. The only summoner that was burned on red team was Thresh's Ignite. It forces both Kate and Soraka out of lane, and this is going to turn into a dragon pickup for the red team. So that was a very effective gank. Note that Riven also roamed down from top lane. Roamed down and went for this dragon. The reason why Riven roamed down here is Riven is actually getting destroyed in top lane. There was an early gank that I didn't highlight, and Mandatory Cloud has gotten an early kill and is now just snowballing. So Riven went off to try to help elsewhere, and it did turn into a dragon, so that was quite helpful for red team. But that top lane is going to be an issue because Wukong, if you check out the gold, Wukong is 700 gold ahead already, and that's a very bad sign. Alright, anyway, getting back to Soraka. So, her E is really her one crowd control skill. You can use it to silence people. Again, it doesn't cost anything to use this, so you might as well keep spamming it. Either restore mana to an ally, or to just deal harass to the enemy. Unfortunately, the harass is fairly low. It was actually a lot higher prior to her getting reworked in the 3.14 patch. So the actual harass is pretty low. I mean, look, with 1 point in the skill, it's 40 plus 27 right now. 67 damage is pretty weak. That's not a lot. Now, there is something new here. It does scale off of maximum mana. So you have an incentive to build more max mana on Soraka. In particular, Frozen Heart is a pretty good item on her because, of course, it gives you all that mana. And it also gives cooldown reduction, and Soraka actually is very dependent on cooldown reduction. CDR is one of her key stats, and really it always has been. I've been playing Soraka since 2010, and CDR has always been a critically important stat for her, so she can get off more heals and deal with the fact that she has such long cooldowns. Then finally, let's highlight her ultimate, which calls upon Divine Power to instantly restore 150 health to all allied champions. excuse me here. Do these commentaries live, and sometimes a little difficult to talk for whatever reason. Basically, this is a global heal. Heals all champions on the map. It is the opposite of Karthus's ult that damages all enemy champs, but she heals all allied champions. The actual amount of health that gets healed by this has dropped greatly from what it was before the rework. So it only heals 150 now, and the AP ratio is lower than it used to be too. But it is still a global heal, so a good Soraka player will be watching the map and trying to do their best to look for opportunities to ult into the other part of the map. Anyway, what's going on in this actual lane, haven't talked too much about this, but in this actual lane, basically been executing a very effective poke and push strat. So what they've been doing is just infusing Kate, letting her constantly shoot peacemakers, and using heals to just heal up from the sustain. What Thresh and Ezreal want to do is they need to all in this lane. Basically, they need to force an all-in fight, because right now they're just going to get poked down due to Caitlyn's superior range, and then Soraka's just going to sustain. And this is pretty much how Soraka wants to play a lane. Caitlyn's actually a pretty good laning partner for Soraka. You just poke them, and you just keep pushing the lane over and over and over again, and you just hope that you're not going to be all in. Anyway, right now we actually have some action. So we have LeBlanc roaming over from mid lane, and that shield is actually going to be enough to save Ezreal temporarily. Yeah, actually, where did he get that? Oh, Morgana came in and tossed the shield on him. So that was an unsuccessful roam from LeBlanc. Largely was saved due to Morgana also roaming down from middle lane. And right now we have Mundo coming in. There's another infuse. And we'll see if this turns into another fight. I mean, again, the blue team does not know that Nautilus is sitting right there. So we'll see. He's going to come out. There is the Nautilus passive on Caitlyn. Mundo's going to come in as well. So we've got a 3v3 going on right now down here in the bottom lane. Cleaver is going to hit on the Nautilus. Or are they going to be able to finish him off, though? He's very tanky. Now, the pull's going to hit on Mundo. Probably not the one you want to have pulled in. And they aren't going to be able to take down Thresh. Now, Nautilus is very low. He will go down as well. The Caitlyn ult comes out. Soraka going to pick up a kill with the banana. Did you guys see that? Let's go back and watch that again just in case you missed it before. So we are, in fact, we're going to see these plays come out again. The pull backwards. Nautilus is going to go down. And right here, the Kate ult comes out. Oh, Ezreal steps on the trap. And bananas for the win as Ezreal goes down right there. So a very successful fight. 3v3 fight. And it ends up being a 3-for-0 in favor of the blue team right there in that fight. That was actually a fight where nobody even got that low. Soraka, if you noticed, Nidus Remain never actually used Wish because nobody ever got all that low. Now, I do want to highlight the item that Soraka built. This is the upgraded version of that initial coin. Nomad's Medallion, well, actually just got updated again, so we're not going to see it. But the Nomad's Medallion gives more health and mana regen, and it also adds the the passive whereby being near a minion death without doing the killing blow grants 4 gold instead of 2. And then that gets retained on the upgraded version. So this is the tier 3 version of the Ancient Coin upgrade path. The upgraded final version is called Talisman of Ascension now, which is a little bit silly because this item is Shirelia's Reverie. I mean, that's what it is. It's Shirelia's Reverie. It's not called that anymore for no apparent reason. Really don't understand why Riot did that. But now it's Talisman of Ascension. And this is actually a really nice item. It retains that favor passive. Being near a minion death without granting the killing blow gives you 4 gold. Gives you the health and mana regen. You get a passive plus 2 gold per 10 seconds, so more passive gold generation. And you get, the really nice thing is the cooldown reduction, 20% cooldown reduction on this item. I mean, it's a good item. And then finally, the active, the Shirelia's Reverie active that everybody's familiar with who's played this game for a long time, grants nearby allies 40% movement speed for 3 seconds on a 60-second cooldown. The active is really good. Really useful. If you've been watching the competitive scene, you've seen the Shirelia's. There actually is the Shirelia's active used right there. And then another burst heal coming out on Bobby Hank Hill. The, the Wish Ultimate was burned there. And that's actually going to turn into a 1-for-1. And now, because Mundo's here, it's going to be turned around, turns into a 2-for-1. And Soraka actually got another kill. So watch out for Soraka, 203 right there. But you can see right there just how much burst healing that Soraka has. Pop the Astral Blessing, 225 health, and a temporary 95 armor, 95 bonus armor. And then the Wish as well, large amount of healing. And of course, the burst of speed from Talisman of Ascension, helping to turn around that fight. And watch this, watch this. I'm going to infuse you, and then auto attack you. That's going to show Morgana who's boss. Better watch out for those Soraka auto attacks. Now, the drawback to this item is the Relic coin, this whole upgrade path, even though the final item, like the Talisman of Ascension / Shirelia's Reverie, this item itself is quite good, but the problem is it doesn't grant any combat stats whatsoever. I mean, if you think about what you get from this item, you get health and mana regen, and then passive gold generation. Health and mana regen do not help you in a fight. You know, those are nice stats, but they don't do anything to help you win actual trades. I mean, I guess in a very extended poking battle, you can out-sustain them. But in an actual straight-up fight, they don't do anything. You know, these stats don't help you. Now, look also how much gold's been earned. 69 passive gold, and then 338 favor gold. That's from being next to someone who's last hitting. So what is that about? Just over 400 gold. Let's compare that to how much gold, say, Thresh has gotten from his Targon shield. Note that Thresh has gotten more gold. Thresh has gotten 484 gold. So Thresh has gotten significantly more gold from his Targon sprays. He's gotten about almost 100 more gold. Plus, Thresh has just kept this at the Targons. Thresh hasn't had to upgrade this to the Face of the Mountain, which is the tier 3 version of this. And so, you know, the Targon's item basically gives you more gold generation, you know, compared to the Talisman of Ascension. You know, you get at the very, you either get more gold or at the very least you're breaking even when you're using the Targon sprays. And beyond that, Targon gives you much more useful stats. Like, check it out here. You get 175 health off of the Targon sprays, as opposed to mana regen. That's just a much more useful stat to be getting the 175 health. You know, at this stage of the game, champions typically have, you know, well, we've actually got a fight going on here. Maybe we'll get back to this in a second. Yeah, Bobby Henkiel's picking a fight. It's a really good use of the Thresh box, but out comes the heal. And, yeah, that heal came out from Soraka, and then the Shirelli is active to run away from this fight. And Ezreal's still low, but I don't think he's going to die here. We'll see. Maybe he will. Right there, we're going to see Exhaust come out on the Nautilus. The Nautilus ult being burned. Barrier was used by Ezreal. He is, in fact, finally going to fall down. And then, again, the heals coming out from Soraka, keeping Caitlyn alive over and over and over again. And right there, oh, very, very low, but Thresh is not going to fall. So not going to be any more deaths here in this battle. But yeah, you can see once Soraka maxes out her E, which is what you typically are going to want to do, 270 health and 110 bonus armor for 2 seconds. Really useful, can be very useful in baiting people into bad fights, basically. But to get back to my point again, you know, this item is not bad, but you know, you basically get the same amount of gold or less from the Targon's brace, and Targon's gives you much better stats in terms of actually winning a fight. See, look how much gold that Thresh has. Thresh has gotten 597 gold from this. That's, you know, that's more than Soraka's gotten. That's 600 against, what is this? Against, you know, 530. So yeah, Targon's is producing more gold, and it has more useful combat stats. You know, so if we compare the fully upgraded Targon's, which is Face of the Mountain, that's 375 health and 10% CDR. You know, that's significant. That's Thresh is getting about 20 to 25% more health from having this item. You know, he's got 2,000 health. Soraka's got 1,400. You know, that makes a really big difference in terms of actually trading. So there's a reason why everyone's buying Targon's Brace. In fact, if you look at this bottom lane, how many Targons do we have? We've got a Targon on Ezreal. We've got a Targons on Thresh. So that's what? Two double Targons here on the red side of the team. Oh, and by the way, the Ezreal player, Mongol Warrior, actually does not even have a trinket. Apparently just never picked one up at the shop, so that's a little bit silly right there. So anyway, like even though the Talisman of Ascension is a good item, I'm just not convinced that it's worth buying. Right here we have a gank coming in. Soraka heals not enough to get out of that one. Note that Wish was still on cooldown. The Soraka ult was not up. And Nautilus actually looks pretty amusing when he has the Morgana Black Shield on him, because the graphic is just ridiculously big. Anyway, so Skara, playing as LeBlanc, is roamed down from mid. They're trying to save this tower, and it looks like they have a good shot to hold on to it. 4-man gank from the red team. Able to pick up a kill on Caitlyn, but doesn't look like they're going to be able to get the tower. Overall, blue team has a decent lead, not an enormous lead, but they're in pretty good shape overall. They got, what, about a 3,000 gold lead, a little bit above that. And they'll have to see if they can snowball this into a bigger lead from there on. So anyway, I don't want to keep harping on this, but as I said, I just think that the Targons into Face of the Mountain, or whatever it's called, is just it's just a more useful upgrade path, because if you've got an extra 200 or 300 health and you know you fight 2v2, that makes a really big difference. And that, you know, Talisman of Ascension's a nice item, but that health and mana regen doesn't help you in a fight. So that's one reason why nobody's building this item. And honestly, I had to look really hard just to find a replay where somebody built this thing. It is useful on Soraka, gives her the cooldown reduction. Nidus Remain looks to be building Glacial Shroud into Frozen Heart, and then that together with Talisman of Ascension will give 40% cooldown reduction, which is the max. Anyway, right up here, we've got an engage going on top, and did you see what happened right there? We actually had the Soraka Wish ultimate used, and with that burst of heal, it's going to be just enough to keep Mandatory Cloud alive. Going to run out with 50 HP, and right now Nautilus is trying to escape, but doesn't look like he's going to be able to. Will fall to LeBlanc right there, and now Morgana has come up to try and rescue the situation, but has an angry Mundo chasing. And Morgana not going to be able to make it out of this. No, that Lantern not going to be able to click on that in time. So that sequence has helped put blue team further ahead. And they're looking to be in pretty good shape at this point. Right there, interesting use of the what is it? The sweeping lens. Is that what it's called? I should get these names down. Greater lens right now. The use of the lens trinket. I do think that as this game gets played more in Season 4, we will see more and more use of the red trinket, the lens one. Early on, everybody's just been buying the one that gives you a free ward, the warding token or trinket, whatever it's called. But I do think we'll see more and more use of the red one as time passes. Okay, so there was a kill in top lane for red team. Dragon's about to respawn in about 30 seconds. In the meantime, though, we're going to have a fight over here at the blue buff of the red team. And Riven, continuing to get hit by cleavers, had to flash over the wall. Here comes the cavalry. And we actually do see Mundo use his smite there, so just keep in mind, won't be up if there is a dragon fight upcoming. Anyway, this fight is continuing right now. It looks to be a 3-on-3 down here in bottom lane. Thresh is going to get ulted there by Kate. Going to force everybody to run through the box. Kate is going to flash and Peacemaker, but it's not quite going to get that kill. And Thresh, again, by virtue of having that face of the mountain, is pretty darn tanky right now. Going to be able to run out of it. There is the Shirelia's active popped. I don't know what it's called now, but you guys know what I mean. It's the Shirelia's Reverie active for the extra movement speed. And this fight just continues to go on. We've got a 3v3, but Morgana is now behind the blue team, and that might be a good position to be in. We're going to have to see. Right now comes the Mundo ultimate, Spell Shield being popped onto Morgana, and this Poke Fest just continues down here in bottom lane as the three people on blue team just continue sustaining with those Soraka heals and infuses. And the push just continues over and over and over again. We actually have all 5 members of the red team in this bottom lane right now. And no, that Peacemaker does not interrupt the recall from Riven. Meanwhile, while this is going on, okay, Soraka is going to get pulled in using all of her healing, but it's not going to be enough. Will fall right there. But while that was going on, Morgana is going to get bursted down. So that's a 1-for-1. Mandatory Cloud is still pushing in mid while this is going on. And overall, well, we see the Nautilus ult coming out onto Caitlyn. Well used there. Nautilus is getting low. He has his shield popped. Is he going to fall? Looks like he's going to survive for the moment. Is Mundo going to be able to chase this down? Has popped his ult on a very short cooldown. Still chasing. Ezreal's going to dodge the cleaver. Still chasing. That one's going to hit. He's going to be able to escape. No, not going to dodge that cleaver. Down goes Ezreal. And then chases Nautilus all the way back to the fountain. Mundo goes where he pleases, apparently. And yes, does have that Spirit Massage. Probably is running the Perseverance Master in the defensive tree. And Mundo regenerating a lot of health here between his passive and that Spirit Massage. And presumably Masteries in the defensive tree. But he is getting health back at a pretty ridiculous rate right now. So anyway, overall that was a good fight for the blue team. An even better fight right now thanks to winning another 1v1. Mandatory Cloud is extremely far ahead in his matchup against this Riven player, against Weaves. Not familiar with that particular player. And it looks like this game is starting to snowball in favor of the blue team. If you look at what Soraka's picked up, has gone ahead and grabbed the Glacial Shroud, is building that towards a Frozen Heart. And let's see, can now see the scaling on the Infuse. Again, 5% of maximum mana, both for ally cast and enemy cast, now is up to 60 magic damage. And see right there, it gets binded by Morgana, but the heal just immediately removes that. Note that Soraka has not built any AP. Nidus Remain has chosen not to build Ability Power, so is not getting anything, is not getting any of the scaling on these items, or on these skills because, well, has to build Ability Power. I have seen people also building items like Rylai's on Soraka's. Rylai's is a good item because it gives the Ability Power, gives her more health for survivability, and then you get a little extra crowd control because your star calls all slow in the vicinity. I've seen Rylai's used as a pretty effective item. Again, let's check one more time. The gold earned from Talisman of Ascension. Look, it was at around little over 800 right now. If we compare that to Thresh, right now Thresh is right around 800. So again, the gold generation is pretty much the same, but the stats are much more useful on Targon / Face of the Mountain. It's just a more useful setup. Anyway, we've got one more duel up here in the top lane. Going to use the Wukong clone, and we're actually going to have a duel interrupted by Scumbag Skara, who comes up and picks up that lane. And as it turns out, that's actually going to be it for this one, because right now the red team chooses to surrender, and they just decide that they're not going to play this one out, which is a little bit of a premature surrender, I have to say. I mean, they were behind, obviously behind by 8k gold, but no inhibs down, no Baron taken. I feel like they still had a chance to come back. Maybe not a great chance, but 5-10%, maybe? I don't know. But in any case, they decided they didn't want to play on any longer. So this was a game, as I said, where I just was looking for a case of looking at the sort of the traditional support build. Soraka, the ancient coin into the whatever it's called, Talisman of Ascension, whatever the replacement is for Shirelius Reverie. I wanted to get a chance where I could just look at that and kind of compare it. And again, you know what? Even though Soraka's team won this game, I still feel like this wasn't the right item to purchase. I still feel like this wasn't a great pickup. The Targons was just better in this game, and you know, despite the fact that red team lost, I feel like the Face of the Mountain was doing more for Thresh than the Talisman of Ascension was doing for Soraka. So it seems to be why nobody's really building this item. It's just not that good. So in any case, short video. Hope you guys still enjoyed this. We're going to look at the AP item next, the Frostfang or whatever it's called. We'll look at that one in the next video. Until then, see you guys later. Have a great week. See you then.